Yeah, nothing but YouTube channels. There's one channel I watch, Religion for Breakfast.
Oh,
It's interesting, Bloom. You should check it out.
yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's
How about
just.
the Audible for breakfast?
How about the Audible for waking up?
Colon blow.
All right, you said it. I'll play this instead.
You got a team, here's a word of the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football. I'm living in a fantasy. Football. Got everybody mad at me. Football. Cause every game I had to win. Football. I gotta be a champion. Football. I'm living in a fantasy.
It is Football Guys for breakfast. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, part 2 of the Week 4 preview here on the Audible in Washington, Philadelphia. Okay, we're all saying Eagles, as we should be, but Washington can put up a fight, at least better than they did last week. Maybe it's just that Broncos game that's stuck in my craw, but they've got the players, Bloom. We already know who they are. What can they do against Philadelphia, though? And that front seven, that secondary, like there's going to be limited places you can attack.
Yeah, I think that we're still trying to triangulate this Washington team, right? We've gotten some disparate data points. That Arizona win looking pretty good now, right? Actually being functional against Arizona's defense, who gave them some fits, looking pretty good. The very bad half, very good half versus Denver, I don't even know what to do with that. And then Buffalo made them look like, Oklahoma Tech against Alabama last week, 37-3. So it's tough to figure out what this team is about. It is a divisional game. Sometimes we throw out the records, but Howell had such a tough time finishing against Buffalo. You wonder if he's going to do much better against this Philadelphia defense. Brian Robinson's probably more flex play, what the heck flex, than a running back two because of the potential of being marginalized by the game script like he was last week. It could be a better game script for Antonio Gibson, but we're not debating whether to play Gibson. We're debating whether to drop him if there's something better on the waiver wire right now. Maybe it's a breakthrough game. I'm not counting on it. And then you have 3 wide receivers, which means for fantasy in a tough matchup, you have none. I guess Terry McLaurin, who's coming on, but I don't see this Washington offense having time to throw downfield. There's Curtis Samuel. There's Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson is going to be one of those guys that you regret dropping at some point, I think, but not necessarily this week. But it's easy to forget, Cease, with this team than the data points. This team was 2-0. And hey, 2-0 is 2-0 in the NFL. Again, that Arizona win was like, well, yeah, it was Arizona. No, that was a quality win. The Denver win, that's not going to be a quality win, but it's a win. So is this team going to be 2-2 after this week and one of the worst teams in the league? Or are they going to give the Eagles a fight? Meanwhile, the Eagles are 3-0 and feels like they haven't hit their prime, their stride yet.
Yeah, Bloom, you just stumbled on it. Are they going to be 2-ooh? Or 2-ooh? Yeah. All right, Eagles. I guess the running back situations, that's the only thing that's confusing or confounding about Philadelphia. How are fantasy GMs supposed to navigate those Eagles running backs that we all know are talented, all know are going to have room to run? How much against Washington?
Yeah, we'll see. This is going to be interesting. Jalen Hurts should be big, though. Jalen Hurts, and again, Jalen Hurts is not playing anywhere near the level he was at last year, but for fantasy, you wouldn't know the difference. That's why you're feeling good about that Jalen Hurts pick. I do think it is DeAndre Swift's backfield, and even though the numbers look like 16 to 14 carries, a lot of those carries for Gainwell came when the game was out of hand last week. And it's Swift's backfield. And it's so fascinating, Cease. And this is why we play fantasy football, and this is why you got to play dynasty fantasy football. You just have to, because it's the way that you can really not just profit in terms of money, but have the I told you so whenever you feel like a team isn't giving a player a fair shake or isn't using a player the right way, or otherwise there's more there. I think it's very easy that folks who watched DeAndre Swift saw that, and we heard this for years now. Behind the scenes, this new regime and Swift didn't get along, really. They didn't like him. It wasn't their guy. It wasn't the kind of guy they wanted. But we see all that talent now coming out, running behind this offensive line. It's his backfield. He has to be in as an upside running back too. Gainwell is more of maybe a what the heck flex because of a matchup, but he's more of an injury upside play. And I don't even know how much upside there is there with Rashad Penny, Boston Scott lurking. AJ Brown was the squeaky wheel that got the grease last week. Devontae Smith, obviously in your lineup. Dallas Goedert, obviously in your lineup. And again, the point I want to emphasize here, Eagles fans should feel good in a way because this team is not clicking right now. There's defensive injuries. The offense doesn't look like last year's offense in terms of efficiency and how dangerous they can be as a downfield passing offense. And they're 3-0, but it's Robert Wright. What's up, Robert? Love him. He's an OG. He's a true OG in the fantasy football world. He said the Eagles were 8-0 when Washington dominated them on the ground last year. So, again, in divisional matchups, sometimes the records, the trends can go out the window.
Well, there's two teams that want to throw their records out because they're both 0-3, and a matchup of two 0-3 teams this week. It's not a Broncos show, but it is a Vikings-Panthers show. So it's Minnesota and Carolina coming up next. And with Minnesota, you're like, all right, is now the Cam Akers time? Is it we're waiting? We've been waiting. And Alexander Madison outside the turnovers, like he's done some things, done some stuff with his job on the line. Now against Carolina, and we've got plenty of stuff to say about them. All right, Minnesota, we know what you can do. Now just go do it and win, but it's on the road, Bloom.
Yeah, this is a game, betting markets, right, Cease? I think I saw a betting market where it was the fourth. Now O'Connell is the fourth favorite, fourth best odds to get fired, to be the first coach to get fired. It's kind of morbid that we bet on that, by the way, isn't it?
Right.
It's like betting on who, like it's like death pools or something like that. You know, I mean, I know it's not death, but it's like professional death. Anyway, hey, Kirk Cousins. And see, again, I want to point this out because we think of things changing incrementally, but that's not how the NFL goes. The NFL hits these inflection points and you get whiplash. You know, see, there's a universe where like a month from now, O'Connell is fired and Kirk Cousins is traded to the Jets, let's say, right? Or a team that loses their quarterback, right? I mean, there's a greater than 0% chance that happens.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's 0.3%, but guess what? Look around you, 0.3% stuff happens. Okay, so Kirk Cousins, fantasy football quarterback of the year. But for the Vikings, if you fall to 0-4, you lose at Carolina, you really have to wonder where you're at. That being said, I think it would be rash to judge O'Connell's tenure at this point, especially when you're understanding that he's going to go forward. It's almost like you plead and say, well, let us get our quarterback and see what we can do. Although Kirk Cousins is giving you a really good simulation of how this offense works in the passing game, at least when it's clicking. What about the running game? You saw a bounce back for Alexander Madison last week. You certainly saw last week Kenneth Walker really get going against this Carolina defense. So you're inclined to play Madison. Is Akers even going to be active after Madison responded last week? We'll see. Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson in your lineup, Jordan Addison probably in your lineup, KJ Osborne, a deep what the heck flex, just because of how this pass offense is going to continue to be what pulls this team maybe to a victory. They can't go 0-4 in Carolina, can they?
I don't know. And, well, Bryce is probably going to play. So there's Bryce Young trotting out there. And that means if you had Adam Thielen in because you forgot to take him out or you're related to him or something, like you got the big game. Well, now the kid's back out there who we like. I was talking to someone in the know about CJ Stroud yesterday. It was awesome conversation. Anyway, so Bryce Young's likely to be out there, Bloom. This adjusts everybody because Chark, it was on fire. And hey, Thielen got 11 catches. Like, it might be half that, Eddie, if you're lucky this week with the kid back out there. Unless sometimes we've seen this, Bloom. The young guy will watch the old vet go out and do things that he wasn't yet doing and think, hey, I could do that too. So maybe, but I'm not putting my fantasy hopes on that just yet.
Yeah, we want to see Bryce Young do a little bit more. But right now, we're projecting this offense as a big difference, right? Expect it to be Bryce Young. And that means Adam Thielen's more of a wide receiver 3 flex, probably even a what the heck flex, with some momentum wide receiver 3 flex We're going to see if Jonathan Mingo is going to play. If Mingo's not going to play with a concussion, DJ Chark becomes a little more interesting. But remember, the downfield passing with Bryce Young, it just wasn't there. Minnesota's defense and pass rush may be a little more vulnerable than, say, New Orleans, who they played earlier on. But Chark is a true what-the-heck flex. If Mingo's out, we'll see if Terrace Marshall can get something going. At least Miles Sanders is involved in the passing game. At least 3 receptions, I think, in every game. And even though he didn't do much on the ground last week at Seattle, he did score. So Sanders has earned that running back 2 spot in our lineup, certainly against a Minnesota defense that we want to target with our fantasy football lineups. Yeah, Sanders is in there. What I really want to point out here, Cease, because we all know, yes, Arizona has Houston's first. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, Arizona has Houston's first. Although maybe that first isn't going to be as good as we thought. Chicago has Carolina's first. So we're starting to look at that. We have 2 teams, Cease. Everyone's, Houston's going to pick 1 and 2. Houston's, maybe Carolina's going to pick. I'm sorry, Chicago is going to pick 1 and 2 this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or maybe they're going to beat Denver. Maybe we should move on from that and go Steelers and Houston up next. And we saw some glimpses. And it's funny. It's like Kenny Pickett had his best game. It's okay. It's all right. It's got great receiving weapons. We all know that. We know that Jalen Warren should be getting more than he's getting. We all know Najee Harris usually disappoints you from a fantasy perspective. But okay, Steelers and Houston, back to my conversation about Stroud. Those guys are bought in. They are completely bought in. They're at home. So as Kenny Pickett comes off his best game, which was okay, you're now facing a Houston team that's energized and, believe in each other and their coach and their quarterback.
Yes. And Cease, every time I see this matchup, do you remember the most ignoble game in Steelers history? It has to be, right? What they lose to the Texans 24-6, right? They outgain them by some ridiculous amount. It was one of the hardest Steelers games. It was one of those games that was like an archetype for how the Steelers can win 90% of the plays and lose the game to an inferior team because of how badly they lose the other 10% of the plays. So Steelers, by the way, believe it or not, if the draft was this week, the Steelers would be picking 29th. It's just early season stuff. It's weird because they beat a good team, right? They beat a Cleveland team that is a legit good team. So they have a good schedule. They have a pretty good schedule, strength of schedule. They lost to San Francisco, and they're 2-1. Just about everybody in that's any good in the AFC is 2-1. I don't know if the Steelers are any good, but certainly this is a matchup for Houston that I think continues their talk internally. We're better than people think. We're going to do more than people think. And some of that's J.J. Stroud, although this offensive line, which will be without Larry Tunsil, again, facing the pinchers of that Steelers defense. And this is quintessential archetype Steelers stuff. Can you slow down their edge rush? That's a big question and a big test. So you have a big range of outcomes here because if you do slow down that edge rush, boy, they're vulnerable in the secondary, the Steelers, right? 3rd and 13, you got them right where you want them. As long as you can keep the pass rush from getting home, you're going to probably complete something downfield. And C.J. Stroud's ready to do that as a rookie to Tank Dell, to Nico Collins. However, if the pass rush gets home, it could be a terrible game. So a boom bust play with Stroud, a boom bust play with Pierce, who's not going to have a lot of room to run, but could finish some drives like he did last week whenever Tank Dell caught a ball inside the 5. More of a what-the-heck flex, but it could be there. I think you got to play Tank Dell, and you got to play Nico Collins. I know Collins was down last week, but Collins is exactly the kind of receiver that can eat against the Steelers, maybe even Robert Woods. It's really just a question of whether you think they're going to be successful, or in the case of Woods and Dell, if they're not successful, now you're throwing more short passing, and this is going to be a good one, Cease. Either way, we're going to see Stroud see something he hasn't seen before. TJ Watt, he hasn't faced anything like that before. He hasn't faced anything like this Steelers edge rush. So this is exciting. This is a learning game for the Texans, and this is a game for the Steelers. I mean, they should be 3-1 come out of this game at home, right? That doesn't mean they're a good team, though.
No, not at all. You skipped over the Steelers, though, baby.
Oh, did I go backwards?
Yeah, you did backwards. You didn't let me set up the Houston side. I love the Houston side this week. But let's talk about the potential
sorry.
dog
That's
trash
right.
Steelers offense that we'll see.
Yeah, I got
Again,
it
it's
backwards.
Kenny
It's in
Pickett's
Houston.
best game, and it was okay.
It's in Houston. See, this is what happens when I think about that game that the Steelers lost to the David Carr Texans. I go on tilt. It was really, for a non-playoff game, it was about as difficult to digest and process watching your team lose like that. Will it be Kenny Pickett watching his team lose because, well, yeah, Calvin Austin had that touchdown. But still, this is not a dangerous pass offense. You're going to leave Pickens in just because of the upside. Pickens isn't that different of a play from, say, Garrett Wilson, but you don't want to leave that potentially on the bench unless you're really stacked at wide receiver. We'll watch and see if Calvin Austin can keep up his impact while Deontay Johnson's out. Probably not consistent enough to matter for fantasy leagues, but in Dynasty, this was a beatable Texans defense through the first 2 weeks. Last week, for some mistakes, maybe Jags self-inflicted some mistakes, but D'Amico Ryan's defense starting to feel itself a little bit. We'll see if they can keep that up. How the Steelers attack the Texans this week, probably with the running game. And this has been the best defense to start running backs against this year. 3 touchdowns for Baltimore in week 1. Travis Etienne still had a good game, and Bigsby got a touchdown, even though the Jags offense didn't do much. And Zach Moss had his coming out game against them. So Najee Harris, probably not going to get a better game script than last week, but maybe a little more production, maybe a rushing touchdown. Jalen Warren, certainly what the heck flex with upside. And Pat Freiermuth has a pulse after scoring a touchdown. So you could do worse at tight end. I fear this game as a Steelers fan, and I fear the late game slate as someone who likes to watch football.
Yeah, we'll be getting through the late game slate pretty fast. Unfortunately, not a lot to talk about, but we got to talk Raiders and Chargers, important divisional matchup. This one is in LA, and the Raiders side, you're like, okay, Kobe Myers, can you do it again? You've done it a couple of times when you're not concussed. But the Raiders side, it's kind of just boring, Bloom. So let's get through the boredom. So now we can talk about, hey, the Chargers' new look.
Yeah, I have. This is my note on the Raiders. McDaniel's death march. I mean, this is just, we all know where this story ends. We all know where this Raiders team ends up, looking for another bad hire. If it's not Jimmy Garoppolo, and I don't think it's going to be. Remember, we're in that era of the NFL now when it's probably more likely a player that suffered a concussion is out at least for a week. And certainly if it's Garoppolo, I think you want to, I mean, in so much as this team can remain somewhat competitive and respectable, hey, they beat the Broncos.
All I want to see is Aiden O'Connell.
That's yeah, I do too. I do too, but I don't know if they're ready for that. I don't know if they're ready to throw him in there yet. It would be Hoyer the Destroyer. I think you got to leave Devontae Adams in. Probably you leave Jacoby Myers in. I mean, Hoyer can at least complete a lot of 7-yard passes, right? Jacobs. I mean, if you want to buy low on Jacobs, it might be better to wait a week. It might be because the backup quarterback could be in, but it also might not be because if it's just the holdout, shaking off the rust, if it's, well, he needed a good matchup, here's a good matchup. Chargers run defense. Alexander Madison got right against them. We'll see. Maybe Jacobs is just in the same, though. Maybe this offense can't support him. So that's a player that is up for debate. We'll get another data point. It may open a window. It may close a window. And for the Chargers, the window is open for them to get some momentum going.
Yeah, get some momentum going. And now, without big Mike Williams, you're going to look to Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnston, who we talked about on the waiver show. Better upside. They don't trust him yet. Put a pin in that. Watch that for the window later in the season because the talent is certainly there. But this passing game is all about Keenan Allen. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Yeah,
anybody?
Right?
Bueller?
Yeah, see, you're reading my mind because I have in my notes like Palmer versus Johnston, or does Allen make it not matter? Does Allen just make it not matter because neither one of those guys are nearly as compelling a target as Allen? So we might be seeing Allen threatening. I don't think I'm going to bloom him when I say this. Sorry, Keenan Allen and everyone who has him on your team. You're looking at a season now where he can threaten the NFL reception record. Michael Thomas. I'm just going to put that out there right now. You know, we're looking at a season where he might be the most valuable fantasy football wide receiver. Although Justin Jefferson says, hello, I'm still here. Tyreek Hill says, hello, I'm still here. But maybe Justin Herbert in a pass-heavy offense is just going to keep throwing to the guy that's open. Isn't that what they say? Just throw to the guy that's open. Well, that's Keenan Allen on most every play. But you're looking at Palmer and Johnston here. Johnson has the higher ceiling in the intermediate term, I think Palmer's the better play this week, but this could be very fluid. Same thing with the tight ends. Maybe you have a few more targets there for Gerald Everett, who, if he could just get some touchdown looks, would be a valuable tight end. But Donald Parham gets the ball, which makes him a decent tight end for fantasy football if you have to go to the waiver wire. Eckler could be back by next week, though. So the smart move is, I think if he's active, you got to play him if he's active. But could you imagine if you're really trying to be nuanced, he's active, but how much Eckler do we need to win this game? Right?
Not a lot.
Maybe a little, not a, we'll see. We'll see about Eckler. But we know we're not putting Josh Kelly on that. Why Josh Kelly have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game? But twice in a row he's let us down. First in a bad matchup, then in a good matchup. I do think for the Chargers, for Brandon Staley, if you're looking into the magical thinking, this is when you say our season's turning around. And it might just be because Kirk Cousins couldn't hear Kevin O'Connell on the headset and TJ Hawkinson dropped the ball, blank off his hands or whatever. But it doesn't matter. That's how the NFL works. You get a bounce, you get something to go your way, maybe a mistake that another team made, and you turn that into something. You got to beat the Raiders if you're going to turn this season into something.
With every season, turn. That's right. It is the Audible, Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. Pot Stoner Degenerate up in Greeley says, like the 70s baseball jersey. Actually, Jason.
It's a softball jersey. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. This is my high school basketball shooting shirt. I'm in a shooting shirt phase, Bloom. Some people say it's a midlife crisis. I'm like, I'm past that, baby. Like,
yeah. But when the shooting shirt comes off, that's when we're ready to play.
Exactly. Yes. When I'm driving one of my 6 cars, because I think that's what old guys do. Anyway, let's move on from that talk. And here you go with your afternoon slate, your primetime matchups. These aren't good. We'll get through them as best we can. Kind of like the New England Patriots, right?
Yeah.
New England Patriots and Dallas Cowboys is up next. And the New England side is like, Mac Jones isn't going to be fined or suspended. Like, he's still dirty. I flipping hate Mac Jones. But anyway, will you hate putting Patriots in your lineup this week against the Cowboys, who will be licking their wounds and at home looking for a comeback?
See, so if you were doing football the way that, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, professional wrestling is fake, right? So I need to say spoiler alert. If you were doing professional football like professional wrestling, I mean, what makes professional wrestling work, really? Heels. The heels. Yeah. Wouldn't you write this script? If you were trying to make an NFL heel, right? If you were trying to create one out of whole cloth to say, let's make someone that people hate because it makes the games more interesting to watch. Maybe that is what makes this game most interesting to watch. Micah Parsons chasing after Mac Jones, right? For New England, I mean, they're kind of an anachronism at this point, but they can win because they have old man game as far as coaching. With Mac Jones, what would that be? Short passing, slow down the pass rush, more running. You try to grind out long drives and not leave Mac Jones exposed. There's no passing game option we want here. We are going to be watching to see, without Trevon Diggs, the Dallas defense all of a sudden wasn't so dominant last week. So we're going to watch that as a data point, what they look like without Trevon Diggs. We're going to watch Zeke against his old team. Revenge game, right? Well, was it really revenge? I think they did right by him. So Zeke, we're watching also the split here. 16 carries for Zeke, outgained Ramondre Stevenson, who had 19 last week. Can they get even to 35 or 25 running back carries this week? But that shows you in a game that was close still, but when they controlled against the Jets, they fed the backs. And if they can keep this one close, if their defense can slow down Dallas, then that's probably what we're looking at. But even Ramondre Stevenson's not an automatic running back too, with Zeke closing in. He's more of a flex play. Zeke more of a what the heck flexed against his old team. And I think what's intriguing, in so much as I can put some lipstick on this pig of a matchup, Cease, Brian Schottenheimer, Mike McCarthy, what they said? Will Greer knows where the bones are, right? The former Cowboys quarterback that the Patriots just signed. So in so much as the Patriots defense has old man game, the Dallas offense, from indications from the past, is going to be pretty predictable, probably, right? Yeah. They're not going to reinvent themselves on the fly the way New England does, because could this be a matchup of futility?
This is like Bill Callahan in the Super Bowl running the same plays and audibles that John Gruden had when he was at the Raiders. Like, why do we change anything?
It works.
What do you mean? It's a big game. All right, Cowboys side. Yeah, this one's pretty simple. It's very basic and predictable, Bloom. But from a fantasy purpose, the one thing that's not predictable is which Hendershot Ferguson, like
Right.
whatever,
Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Gino Hanger, whatever, like which tight end is going to
Yeah.
get it, and then opposite of CD Lamb. How's those things? Where's
Right.
Michael Gallup? What's the
Right.
update on that? Like
Yep,
these are the
yep.
only interesting things about Dallas.
Yeah, you're not playing Dak. Dak hasn't given us any reason to play him yet. It is a Bill Belichick defense. You are playing Pollard. You're not playing Dowdle, but you're watching to see if he gets the red zone touches. This team does have some red zone problems, missing Zeke. So that's something to watch. Not that that would be reason to take Pollard out of your lineup. It could lower ceiling a little bit if Dowdle is successful on those red zone touches. You're going to play CD Lamb. However, what's the test we do every week in the Patriots game? What does this team like to do? What are they most comfortable doing? In the passing game, it's CD Lamb. And we saw Arizona take CD Lamb away and force Dak to go to other options last week. Expect that this week, which means it is maybe a Michael Gallup what the heck flex game. And it's a Jake Ferguson game. He had a little more going last week with his 7 targets. If he gets 7 targets in this one, that's enough to say he's worthy of a start. If you don't have a start that is a clear starter for your team, Brandon Cook's not doing as much. And yeah, this one, I mean, it's going to be, I think this game is going to probably be competitive, and I think it's going to show the limitations of Mike McCarthy, but I think it's also going to show how Bill Belichick and company can make the most out of a not so talented roster.
I'll be glad we'll be doing the recap show during this during this slate of games. By the way, hot Bojangles talk. What's Bojangles, Bloom?
It's a fast food place, a southern fast food chicken. Like there's Zaxby's, there's Cane's. That's right out here, Baton Rouge, right up the road there.
I thought Cane's is everywhere now.
Well, it is now. It started in Baton Rouge. Popeyes, that's New Orleans. See, you got Popeyes out of New Orleans. You got Cane's out of Baton Rouge. I don't know where Bojangles is out of. I think Zaxby's is like maybe Georgia, Alabama.
Okay. So move to Colorado and open up a Bojangles here.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone can come visit us. Get your chicken wings and fantasy football talk.
I like it.
That's right.
Chicken. Yeah,
we're franchising this thing. It is the Audible. Oh boy, Arizona and San Francisco, Bloom. Lord have mercy. We can talk about Josh Dobbs having fun on social. That's awesome. Going up against San Francisco's defense, not awesome. It's at home for San Francisco too. So Arizona's side, what possible chance in fantasy gold could you even get from this?
More than maybe we think after what they did against Dallas last week. But was that, again, just, well, you take Trevon Diggs, take the wind out of their sails. We're going to watch that. Not that you're going to put Josh Dobbs in your lineup unless you're desperate in a 2-quarterback super flex. You might be. But you probably will leave James Conner in, even though it's a tough matchup. He's got some momentum. Marquise Brown has some momentum. If you do think that San Francisco is going to put the clamps on this team, although, again, keeping in mind divisional games might not go the way they should go on paper, it would be a Zach Ertz struggle target game. If Joshua Dobbs is struggling, then it's probably 8 for 43 or something like that for Zach Ertz. I'm not saying to put him in your lineup and count on that, but that would be the theory if you want to put him in there. But hey, don't count this team out. I mean, they outclassed Dallas. They did not just edge out Dallas via a few bounces or fluke plays that went their way. They beat Dallas. And you might have looked at Dallas 2 weeks in, and I know they lost Trevon Diggs as a Super Bowl favorite. I mean, they looked like a Super Bowl favorite. They played the way a Super Bowl favorite plays, and Arizona beat them and beat them soundly. And this team, if they were right there at the end against Washington, right? They should have beaten the Giants, right? I mean, they were up 20-0 on the Giants. So we could be looking at a 3-0 team that had just beat 3 NFC East teams in a row. 2 of them went to the playoffs last year. And saying, hey, if a bounce goes Arizona's way in those first 2 games, we're looking at a 3-0 surprise of the NFL team. And they may show us in this game, Cease, that they are closer to that team than the bad team everyone thought they were going to be.
Yeah, the bad team and the good team has showed up. The haters are here, and the 49ers are here. And oh my God, is that something fun to watch there with Brock Purdy and company, now with more Elijah Mitchell. Like, okay, sure, whatever they'll want to do should work. So the confidence and all the stars, Ayuk, Samuel, of course, Kittle. How much confidence is there this week in this divisional matchup?
Who's going to play? There's some questions here. Deebo Samuel has a knee and ribs.
Doesn't he have something every week?
Well, that's Deebo, man. That's the way he plays.
Right.
Brandon Ayuk has a shoulder. He's limited. And it's one of those situations where, well, if everybody is healthy, maybe you could be a little more patient with Ayuk and the shoulder injury, but because they're not, maybe Ayuk's out there and you probably got to play him. It's Arizona. I mean, you probably got to play him. Name an Arizona corner still. Juwan Jennings is banged up. So, spoiler alert for deep what the heck flexes. And I hope everybody listening right now is at least in one league where you might be looking at starting a player like Ronnie Bell. I think something's brewing here, Cecil. I think they got something in Ronnie Bell. I think they really like Ronnie Bell. I think he fits the ethos of the team. I think you're already seeing him ready to play. And if, as we progress closer to Sunday, if it looks like Deebo's not going to play, if Ayuk is limited, if Juwan Jennings isn't going to play, I'm interested. I'm not specifically interested for redraft leagues, although you may be in a deep enough league where Ronnie Bell matters. I'm just interested to see if this is going to be that latest success story in this offense long term. We know George Kittle is going to be a success story. We know Christian McCaffrey is, maybe a little more Mitchell if the passing game doesn't have all of the typical weapons that it has. And maybe that's a reason not to like Brock Purdy as much this week against an Arizona defense that is much better than we thought it was going to be.
Matt's asking about my Broncos rap. That's part one, baby. They play early. So, and by the way, I was in that locker room yesterday. They're all pissed off in a good way.
That's good.
Sorry,
That's a
Joe.
good thing.
But they're very, very,
Good.
very upset, but very businesslike. So it was different than I thought. I thought it would be not a good locker room. It was a good locker room, but in a like, we got humiliated. Let's go kick some ass. Let's go kick some ass and take some names. It's a Waterboy quote in there somewhere. Kansas City and the Jets. I'd rather talk about Waterboy than this game. And sorry, I apologize. I'll bring all the energy.
See, Taylor Swift's going to be there again. Ratings, baby, ratings. You know, you're in the radio business.
All right.
Ratings. Hey, if Taylor Swift showed up for your show, it's ratings bonanza.
Yeah, it would be off the chain. It's a big
talk some football and astrology.
Exactly. Could talk it all. Anyway, Chiefs side of things. Yeah, everybody. Start everybody. You've been waiting on Sky Moore, start him. Like you've been waiting on, I don't care, start him. Do they wear a Chiefs uniform? Start him.
Yeah, really.
All the running backs, start them. Like, yeah. Yes. Continue to do that.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Rich man, poor man, Pat Mahomes won't be playing in the fourth quarter because they'll be up by 30.
Yeah, that probably will be a good thing. I know the Jets have some stout players up front. They got Sauce Gardner, etc. You know, and by the way, isn't that? I mean, can you put Sauce Gardner on Kelsey? Would it even be a good idea to put Sauce Gardner on Kelsey?
I hope they do it.
Right? Because isn't that another thing? This just occurred to me as I'm getting ready to start talking about the Chiefs here. I know that for fantasy football, we really bemoan that as good as Patrick Mahomes is, as productive as he is, there's no wide receiver that we can count on week to week, right? But what that actually accomplishes is when you have a shutdown corner, so they're wasted. It's like trading a queen for a pawn in chess. Ugh, man, this Chiefs team. So Pacheco's in. McKinnon's a what the heck flex. It feels like you want to keep the Jets spread out and lighter. That's Jerick McKinnon. He's still going to only probably play 1/3 of the snaps, but maybe he gets the ball on those. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what the heck flex. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, rich man, poor man. Like poor man if you have to play him in the first quarter. Rich man if you're playing him in the fourth quarter, and he could be in garbage time. If you had to play a wide receiver, I guess it would be Rashee Rice. Sky Moore has had his opportunities and hasn't really busted out. Kadarius Toney only played 2 snaps last week. We're not ready to trust him. Kadarius Toney, we don't trust until after he has a big game, and then he lets us down again. So I just don't think there's a wide receiver that we are truly counting on here, although it wouldn't be surprising, especially, again, with Sauce Gardner, you're thinking who's playing inside. Rashee Rice can do that. He's been doing well with his opportunities. But wow, this is this is sad. It's so funny, Cease, because like this is a sad matchup. This is one of the least compelling matchups. Maybe the Jets will make it a street fight, somehow make this a close game. But at 345 Park, they're counting the money. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Taylor, please show up for more games. Please, can we get you to endorse the NFL? Please, can we have some sort of tie-in with like the stadiums you're playing? She's coming to the Superdome next year, right? Have the Saints come out with her or something, because it's the biggest PR boon that they have had since, I don't even know, since I'm going to Disneyland. I don't even know what made people who didn't care about the NFL suddenly care about the NFL like this.
Right. And I thought, like, what if they're in the Super Bowl? And then I thought, oh, they'll probably be broken up by then. But anyway, hopefully they're happy forever and ever.
You're familiar with the Taylor Swift stories, aren't you?
God, I'm a girl dad.
You have daughters. Yeah.
Come on, baby. Although they listen to lots of Bad Bunny. So
that's good.
reggaeton, right? Yeah, so all sorts of different stuff. Anyway, let's talk about the Jets, although I'd rather not. But against Kansas City, Zach Wilson on the last leg, like they're not happy with Zach Wilson. Yeah, no kidding. Now, the reports coming out, and I can't remember who had it yesterday, Bloom, if you do, tell me. But they're like, the team is worried about Robert Saleh being a Zach Wilson apologist. He's never liked Zach Wilson. Okay, so whoever had that report, maybe they're there every day and they know way more than I do. Okay, whatever. All I know is that Robert Saleh, who I love, has never wanted Zach Wilson. So for him to come off as a Zach Wilson apologist, don't you realize what he's doing as head coach?
Right.
He's trying to keep it together, and he just can't. So watch out for Trevor Siemian eventually. But yeah, this is what you get.
I just feel sad, Cease. I was on the radio in Atlanta earlier this week, and they asked me about this situation. I said, you feel like Robert Saleh is a hostage when he's in these press conferences, right? He's trying to say the right thing so everything doesn't fall apart around him, even if it doesn't what he believes or what he's really feeling inside. So in so much as he comes off as an apologist, it's because he has to do that publicly so that whatever little threads there are holding this team together, because he knows the orders are coming on high above him, he can't change those orders. That organizational structure is not going to change. So publicly, he has to hold this together. He is not an apologist. He's just a head coach trying to make the best out of a bad situation. Kansas City's defense is good. If you're a Jets fan, the timing of this matchup is actually something you're thankful for, because the Chiefs defense can humiliate them on national TV in front of an inflated audience because of this new fascination with Taylor Swift, which maybe can be the point where the owners say, like, we can't do this anymore, or the GM or whoever it is. And then you do see somebody else. Breece Hall remains a what the heck flex. Garrett Wilson, you got to leave him in, because whether it's garbage time or just one pass, that's all it takes for Garrett Wilson to come through. And we'll see. And wasn't it Patrick Mahomes that was the fascination with Zach Wilson? And, well, we need to find another Mahomes, another guy who can run around and wing in. Zach Wilson, no. Most definitely no. Zach Wilson is not that guy.
That is not your answer. The answer for Monday Night Football, Seattle and the Giants. And do you know what Geno told Jackson Smith and Jigba, Bloom? He said, you're the best. You're the best. Like, remember that. You're the best. And that is officially in the know. I'm pretty sure other people know that, but like that was the kind of mystery. Like, what was he saying on the sidelines? He was saying, "You're the best, kid. You're the best." So, depends on how deep your league is. If you're gonna be holding on to the rookie who's very talented and Geno thinks is the best, but you know who I think's the best? Kenneth Walker. And just do what you did earlier, please. If you're gonna go Martin Lawrence in this game, then please do that. Yes, more, because it was awesome. And Zach Charbonnet might be a what the heck flex. Spoiler alert for me there. Maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba will be a what the heck flex, Bloom. But either way, it's Seattle against the Giants. This one's going to not have the fanfare of the previous night with Taylor Swift in town, but maybe she'd stick around to see Geno and company.
Yeah, I think that this is a game for fantasy, could be very good to us. And of course, you got Geno Smith, a low-end quarterback, once the Giants. Like, until further notice, we're going to assume you want to play everybody against the Giants. That includes Lockett and Metcalf, even though only one of them maybe will have a big game. If you're desperate for a tight end, they've been doing really well throwing to Noah Fant, Colby Parkinson, and if Will Dissly's out, it makes it easier for them to come through for you. And Zach Charbonnet is a what the heck flex this week, because if the Seahawks can build a lead, you may see more Charbonnet. He's starting to come on. But let's talk a little bit about Kenneth Walker and what he did last week, because it's a throwback, Cease. It's a throwback for us kids watching Earl Campbell, etc., John Riggins, some of these running backs that, well, you have to be crazy to play running back that way now because you're going to shorten your career, but you have to be crazy to play running back anyway. So maybe running back's just going to continue to draw those guys anyway. And it reminds me of a video game, Cease, where there are certain running backs where if they can run someone over, they push the pile, if they make a move, it's like the little bar gets bigger. And if the bar gets big enough, they have special attack. That's Kenneth Walker last week, right? He was able to unleash the lightning, like whatever your favorite Mortal Kombat special attack was, that was Kenneth Walker. He's one of those running backs that, like Marshawn Lynch, right? He feeds off of success and the physicality of the position. And that was Kenneth Walker last week. And I hope he doesn't get hurt. I hope he can keep this up. And it rewards people that just say, whatever happened, groin injury, they drafted Charbonnet. I know from watching him that this is the kind of guy that when he gets going, he can pull a team to a victory. He can pull a fantasy team to a victory. And he's going to be on display for a national audience Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night. And on the Giants side, all right, Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes. Wan'Dale's going to play, right? Is that correct? Like,
Yeah.
That's my most interesting part of the Giants is like, can we just Wan'Dale get healthy, get more involved, like get that thing going? There's some special talent with that kid and explosive talent for sure. And well, Daniel Jones could use the help.
Yeah, Jones is an interesting play this week, and he is truly a boom bust fantasy quarterback. He can win your week for you. He can lose your week for you. I doubt he's going to lose your week for you. Saw what Andy Dalton did. So I think you're inclined to play Daniel Jones. Chances are if I get a Daniel Jones or quarterback question this week, I'm probably going to say, yeah, Daniel Jones, sure. We'll see if Saquon Barkley is back. That's a big question. Although that whether or not, if Barkley's in, that helps the offense. If Barkley's out, that puts more on Daniel Jones. So that's pretty good. Wide receivers. So I'd like that you bring up Wan'Dale Robinson. Let's bring up Paris Campbell too, because Devin Witherspoon finally out there for the Seahawks, looking very good. Tariq Woolen's been a little banged up. We'll see if he's out there. But if those two outside corners are out there and you're choosing between throwing inside to Paris Campbell, to Wan'Dale Robinson, to Darren Waller, leave Darren Waller in. Maybe you have Sam Laporta. Maybe you have that second tight end that we're saying, I'm ready this. Maybe even Luke Musgrave or something like that. But I think you're leaving Darren Waller in because that's where you're going to have to pass against this Seahawks defense with those fast, long, physical outside corners and really not much to speak up Darius Slayton for the Giants. So we'll watch and see what the Giants can do. But even though they had the rousing comeback win against Arizona, this is still a team that after all the feel-good vibes coming out of last year, they won a playoff game. Brian Dable, this is really going to work out. They weren't even supposed to be this good yet. How quickly things change in the NFL. How quickly the questions turn from how good can this team be to how bad can this team be, again, in front of a national audience Monday night.
Yeah, it's the NFL. It's the nature of this league and the nature of your fantasy league. You just may need some help. Lots of help. Don't know where you're going to get the help. We've got some ideas. Our ever popular what the heck flex. It's time, Bloom. It's time to go over what the heck flex and then figure out what we're going to do afterwards. Anyway, let's talk about what the heck flex running backs. Now, the Bears running backs are more than what the heck flexes, but both of them should be in your lineup. So make sure to mark that down. We talked about Joshua Kelly earlier, talked about Elijah Mitchell earlier. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a what the heck flex in that category there as well. I still love Tyjae Spears thrown in as a what the heck flex. You feel good when you can throw him in there as well. I imagine Cam Akers, if he's going to get out there, is in that what the heck flex level this week as well. To the wide receiver position we go. And at wide receiver, you're looking at, all right, Josh Palmer, what the heck flex. It's sad to say Drake London is in that mix now as well. Jahan Dotson, who I still love him, but that's where he's at there. Rashee Rice, as you mentioned, Sky Moore, who I haven't given up on, and there is Jackson Smith and Jigba as an ever popular what the heck flex. Bloom, you look over your lineup, you need some punch. Who are some of your week 4 what the heck flexes?
Diego wants to know if Marvin Mims is a what the heck flex, or is he better than that?
He's more than that. Yep.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. More than a flex.
I can't tell you what I saw at practice, but just know that they've made some personnel changes. Okay. And you'll see them Sunday.
There you go. Some overlap here. Some good names, too. At running back, I'm going to second the Chicago backs. Let's throw the Steelers backs in there, too. And the same note you hit on Drake London. Najee Harris, what the heck flex? That's where we are in week 4. Javonte Williams. Yeah, come on. I mean, again, that's where we are with Javonte Williams. Hasn't fallen as far. Didn't start as high as Harris. Both of those Chicago backs. Jerick McKinnon, again, I just think that that's the mode you want to have the Jets defense in, the kinds of plays and personnel packages when McKinnon's out there. Zach Charbonnet, you mentioned. Wide receiver, you mentioned Josh Palmer. If you like Quentin Johnston, he's going to get that 70% of the snaps. He could be a big play downfield receiver. I think that's how they're going to use him. Rashee Rice, we mentioned. Marvin Mims, I have as a what the heck flex, but maybe I'm underestimating him. Michael Gallup. Ronnie Bell, I mentioned, depending on how deep you got to go. And I'll throw one more out there. Jamal Agnew. We're looking at Zay Jones, long shot to play. Calvin Ridley, knee issue, and he's probably going to see a lot of A.J. Terrell. Christian Kirk can't do it all. Although, like people were asking in the chat room, Christian Kirk, or it's Christian Kirk. I don't even need to hear the second name. It's Christian Kirk this week, and Evan Ingram, and maybe Jamal Agnew for London for a show.
Bloom, if you had a Taylor Swift song to create after the breakup with Travis Kelce, what would the title be? As someone who, when I talked about Russell Wilson, like he's not the problem, but he's not the answer. Like that's a country song, right? She's not my problem, but she wasn't my answer.
You remember the Nancy Sinatra, Terry Bradshaw song? Play me or trade me, because I won't be second string. Remember that one?
All right. No, I do not.
Nancy Sinatra. I could be wrong. Jerry Bradshaw had a country music singing career. He and like Mel Tillis, I think.
He had like 4 albums, I think.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw is terrible at everything.
Terrible Terry. He puts the Terry in terrible.
Yeah, but up there rattling around in that brain, you got any Taylor Swift songs that she
Next Man Up. Like Next Man Up. It would be called Next Man Up.
Ooh, okay. Next Man Up. I like it. What about Next Woman Up? Right. Okay.
Yeah,
maybe that too. Throw it in, right?
Next
I was
Day
thinking
Up.
Something of tight end, right? Like from tight end to split end. Like split ends or something like something there.
Right.
There's something
incomplete.
there.
The pass was incomplete.
Ooh, incomplete.
4th down.
Yes, yeah. I wanted it to last, but we were incomplete.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it.
You know, I thought you scored a touchdown, but there's a flag on the play.
I definitely know her and Travis are not talking politics in their relationship, but we'll leave that one. That's for a different podcast, Bloom.
Yeah. Geez.
On Sorry Joe Plus.
Talking politics with famous people probably wouldn't go the way a lot of people wish it would.
Okay. Let me see.
You incomplete me, Robert.
Right. All right. That's a wrap for today's program. Everyone out there. Where's Carl says the On the Couch podcasts? No, they're podcasts. They're on YouTube. Yeah, they're on YouTube. They're on podcasts. So Carl, just email us something. We'll figure it out. But yeah, they're because I was thinking, I was like, wait a second. Oh my God. Did I not do On the Couch last night? Yes, I did. So yeah, it's already out there. Bloom, you saw the notification, right? I did.
Yes.
Okay. The days run together. Sorry. It's why I drink like 2 of these. Why'd Cecil's heart blow up? Yeah, it's crack, allegedly. Anyway, gotta go, everyone. Appreciate you all. And as always, he's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on socials at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned. And how about you do this? How about you go ahead and you stay frosty?